world locations here at FIU. And I want to thank you for joining us for today's informational session for our international students here at Florida International University. We're very excited to have all of our listeners and participants. We know that you're not joining us simply here from Miami, but we have those that are joining us from all over the world. And today's session is actually very important because we know that many of you have had a number of questions over the last couple of days, last couple of weeks, and we want to make sure that you're getting answers to those questions as quickly as possible as we have those questions and answers available. Let me just, first of all, congratulate all of our international students. We have over 4,200 students here at our FIU. And as you know, international is our middle name, and we deeply care about you, our students, and how we support you in all of your efforts to earn your degrees and to study and make FIU part of your experience. And obviously, as being an international university, we're very proud of the fact that we have students representing over 143 countries from around the world. So I think it's fantastic to have such a great representation. I know that we have a representation joining us here today, and we are looking forward to answering those questions and hearing from you as well. Let me just point one thing out that I think is very important to start with. On July 6th, as we know, came out from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Student and Exchange Visitor Program. And we are going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the implications of that announcement, what we're doing to help you deal with some of the challenges and changes that have come about because of that announcement. But I also want to point out that a message went out from our president on July 7th, and we urge you students to check your email and read that message because it's very important in terms of listening from our president and understanding our commitment to you. And I just want to highlight 4 bullets from that email. First of all, we're going to ensure that your immigration status remains in compliance and that we meet your educational needs by offering the educational courses in either a hybrid or face-to-face format. You're going to hear more about that in just a minute. We are in the process of assessing all of your current enrollment status to determine what, if any, courses are necessary for you to be able to join us in the fall semester and have a successful completion of the fall term. We are currently working with our academic units to review all of those course offerings, and we are prepared to start making those adjustments as necessary to ensure that you have access to those courses. And finally, we want to ensure, and this is important for our students, we want to ensure that all of our international students who have enrolled for the fall term at our FIU will have an opportunity to not only begin that journey at FIU, but finish their experience here at FIU. Let me introduce our panelists that we have joining us today. And you'll notice that these panelists come from a number of different units and offices from our university prepared to answer your questions. First and foremost, our president, Mark Rosenberg, who you'll be hearing from in just a moment. We have Charlie Andrews, our Assistant Vice President of Academic and Career Success. We have Lydia Kaz, our Associate Dean of University Graduate School. We have Alejandra Parra, our Executive Director of FIU Global Mobility Office. Mr. Andrew Naylor, Senior Director for Housing and Residential Life. Sarah Noppin, our Director of International Admissions. And we have Leanne Wells, our Director for the Center of the Advancement of Teaching. So with that, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you our 5th President, Dr. Mark B. Rosenberg.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Pablo. And I also want to thank our Provost, Ken Furton, for being with us, and also our Senior Vice President, Sandra Gonzalez-Levy, who heads up External Relations. I want to, first of all, thank our students for being on this discussion. And I want to make something very, very clear, if I can. And that is that we are going to fight for you. We are going to ensure that the courses are available for you, and we are going to be in compliance with all federal laws as we do that. We will fight for you. We will find that we will have the courses for you, and we will be in compliance. I want to make that clear to you. And I know that many of you still had a lot of questions from the town hall that we had the other day, and that's why we're back, and we're going to continue to be back because we're here for you. We'll fight for you. We'll make sure you have the courses you need to graduate. and we are going to be in compliance with all federal regulations. So thank you very much, Dr. Ortiz. I'm here to listen.
Thank you, Mr. President, as always, for your leadership and your commitment to our students. So we're going to move right into our discussion and presentation for you. Students, I did want to make a couple of housekeeping announcements that I think are important. First of all, we do have the opportunity for you to ask additional questions as we go. Make sure that you use the Q&A function as part of the Zoom meeting, and keep your questions as succinct as possible so that we are able to answer those questions. Now, I will ask some of those questions to our participants on your behalf, but we also have members of our teams that are behind the scenes answering those questions as we receive them to ensure that you get the information that you need. Also, for those of you that are viewing this meeting, today's discussion is being live streamed on the Facebook page and is being recorded, so you will have access to it afterward. And the recording will be available on news.fiu.edu and the FIU social channels. So make sure that you are accessing those after this meeting. So with that, I'm going to ask that the presentation be put up on the screen. As I mentioned, students, a lot has happened over the last few days, and we felt that first of all, we'll start off with giving you a recap of some of the information that has been sent out, some of the news that has been sent out along with that. So with that information, I would like to pass it over to Dr. Alejandro Parra to walk us through the next couple of slides.
Unmute, Sarah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks everyone from the university community to join us in this session, because we want to be here for you to answer questions. And before we get started, I just wanted to kind of make a very general recap, and if we can go to the next slide, please. When we received the update from SCVP on July 6th, there were three main points that were made in this update that we had to take into account as an ISSS office to make sure that we are helping you stay in compliance. And the two first points are points that are not really relevant to FIU, because we are, number one, for schools that are operating entirely online, students are not able to attend those schools. They have to look for other options where they can go and attend some of that load in a hybrid or face-to-face. So this is not the case with FIU. We're not a completely online school. Number two, non-immigrant students that are attending schools that are operating regularly, then that is not a problem. They have all the courses available and students can attend and they can stay in compliance. So this is really not the case of FIU, because we have a combination of delivery modes. Number three, non-immigrant F1 students attending schools adopting a hybrid model, that is a mixture of different delivery modes. You will be allowed to take more than one class or 3 credit hours online, and you can actually attend that school, and we are making sure that everything we're doing will help you comply with this regulation. It may not be very clear right now, but I want to go to the next slide to talk a little bit about the implications of this update. In reality, you know, what's happening, SCVP is going back to the pre-pandemic regulation. That is, a student cannot, an international student on an F1 visa cannot take all their courses online, because, you know, in that case, that student might as well stay home. But now, with the circumstance of the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to also make provisions to help you find the best options for you. So, to comply with the new federal rules, all international students will have to be enrolled in at least one in-person or hybrid course. Now, that one in-person or hybrid course has to be degree applicable. You can't just find any course and register in that course because it's hybrid or face-to-face. You have to be enrolled full-time, 12 credits for undergraduate or 9 credits at the graduate level. And one of the things that we will need to do with all of you, new and continuing students, is to update your I-20. This is a project that we will be starting in the next week, and it will take us about 3 weeks to update your I-20s because we need to enter a remark saying that we're not an online institution. So if you're traveling, you can show that document, and that will protect you from having any problems at the port of entry or any problems whatsoever, either here in the United States or while you're in your country. Now, is this your last semester? We have received many, many questions. If this is your last semester, please contact our office. There are different ways of contacting our office. We're going to put a slide on afterwards, but I'm sure you already know that we have a very, very active virtual office that you can access daily. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have already talked to around 2,200 students who have entered the virtual office, and we've been able to help you guys. For English Language Institute students, the courses need to be face-to-face or in person, so they need to be on campus. That's what we know from the update so far, okay? Now, implications for OPT, implications for CPT, there are none. So far, we haven't seen anything that will prevent you from applying for your OPT if you're graduating this semester. Only that to apply for OPT, you need to be in the United States. So you need to be enrolled in the fall and attending classes here in the United States. With curricular practical training, business as usual. Remember that when you are doing curricular practical training, it has to be an internship that is directly related to the course that you're registered for. So those are the main implications of this update. Basically, I think that the main thing that you need to really be alert on is that you need to be registered for as many hybrid or in-person courses as you can find, and at least one. And then you're showing your presence on campus. And that's what's important. So I'm going to turn it over now to Leanne, who's going to give us a little bit more information about the types of courses and the types of modes of delivery that we are offering at FIU.
We'll go to the next slide. And the next slide, please. Thank you. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. So that you can more easily sign up for the courses that you need, we wanted to give you a little bit of a rundown on the types of courses that you will be able to sign up for this semester. There are 2 types of on-campus courses. The full all in-person classes, what you're usually used to. That's 0% of the classes online. You meet on campus in a classroom in a fixed meeting pattern. The certified hybrid courses are also on campus or in-person classes. So these are classes that would count to let the federal government know that you are actually in-person student in our university. Those classes have about 1/3 to 2/3 of the course being offered in an online environment like Canvas, and then a meeting pattern on campus to 2/3 to 1/3, the rest of the course time on campus, and those meeting patterns are also fixed. We do have remote classes. Remote classes are fully online. They are classes that you would not come to campus for, but they do have a set meeting pattern. You would meet virtually with faculty using Zoom or some other video conferencing, but mostly Zoom. And then we have the fully online classes that we would normally think of as an online class. Again, 100% online, no on-campus meeting. And those classes have no fixed virtual meeting pattern. The main difference between remote and online classes is that they don't have a meeting pattern in the online, fully online, and there is a virtual meeting pattern in the synchronous remote. And then also the synchronous remote classes have a expectation that you'll be doing some of the classwork in those virtual meetings, whereas the fully online class is designed to be on demand and asynchronous, meaning you can access the course materials, all of the course materials at one time. So again, in-person classes are in-person and hybrid. Not in-person classes, off-campus classes are remote and online. Back to Pablo.
Thank you, Leanne. Leanne, thank you for clarifying that, because in the Q&A we are receiving several questions regarding the difference between those four modalities and what meets the spirit of the guideline and the law that has now been put out. So just to recap, right, the in-person face-to-face or the hybrid are what is considered in-person for them to meet those regulations. So it's very important that the students understand that, right?
Correct.
So let me just take a moment here, students, just so that you are aware, we had received well over 300 questions over the last couple of days. The team that you have here on the panel has reviewed every one of those questions, and we've prepared slides, the next 4 or 5 slides, in putting together the most common questions, the more important questions that we see need to be answered right away. And we will be answering those in the next couple of minutes. I also want to point out that you're going to hear a number of times from our panelists, this is what we know so far, this is what we know today, because this is an ever-changing reality that we're dealing with right now. As we are getting more information and clarity from the federal government on what exactly this means, we will be very quick to provide you that new information. So what you're going to see today are all the answers that we have to date. And I also see there are a lot of questions in the Q&A box that are coming in. If we don't get to your question today, we are going to capture every one of these questions, and we will have another session, another informational session in the very near future that we will go back to these questions that have not been addressed so that you get all of your answers. So with that, I'm going to ask Leanne to continue and talk a little bit about the work that we're doing to help the students find the right course that they need. Go ahead to the next slide.
So one of the things that we want to talk about is we're not going to be able to offer all of the classes and all of the different versions or types of classes. We call them modalities. We just cannot. It would not be feasible. We don't have enough faculty or classrooms to do that. So we will not be able to do that. So what we are doing now, particularly for the international students, is we know which ones of you are already signed up for remote and online classes and don't have a in-person class. And we are contacting your departments and working with them to make sure you will have a class to take in the fall. That's going to take a little bit of time, but we are working on doing that. The remote classes are not online, fully online like we would normally call fully online, but in this circumstance, they are online classes. Remote does not count for in-person. So remember, if you're signing up for a class, remote will not give you this protection in order to stay in country as a visa student. If the course is in-person or hybrid, then there is an expectation that you will be attending class. So if you have extenuating circumstances and you need to remove yourself from class for some reason, you're immunocompromised, you have a risk factor, then you need to go to the international student office and fill out a form to get the medically reduced course load. So yes, in-person and hybrid classes have an expectation of attendance. However, if you are here and you become exposed or you become ill, then you can get that reduced course load and still be safe. Next slide.
Thank you very much, Leanne. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between our undergraduate students, and then afterward we'll talk about the graduate students, right? Because they all have very independent needs and questions at this time. So I'm going to hand it over back to Alejandra Parra to talk about some of the requirements for our undergraduate students. Alejandra, you're on mute again. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I see that we're receiving a lot of questions in the Q&A, and I'm hoping that I can answer them. So the enrollment requirements are the ones that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentations. You will have to be registered full-time as an undergraduate student. It's 12 credits. And of those 12 credits, you need to find as many hybrid or in-person courses as possible. But if you, for some reason, your program only has one hybrid or in-person course, you will be in compliance. You need to keep in touch with your academic advisor at all times, because this is work in progress. As Lian mentioned, we're trying to find the best options for you, and we will make this work. Now, there are many questions in the Q&A about staying home in your home, staying home in your country. You went home for the summer and you say, you know, I might as well stay home for the fall and take courses from home. Yes, you can do that. What you need to do is to let us know, because remember, you have another layer of responsibility, that is your immigration status. We need to make sure that we adjust your immigration status, we adjust your I-20 information, so that when you are ready to come back, we can reactivate you and we don't have to make you start all over again with the process. So if you decide you're going to be staying home, you have been receiving emails from our office. You have to complete what we call a COVID-19 leave of absence form. And we will adjust your I-20 and you can stay home. You can be in touch with your academic advisor and take courses online. There is no required number of courses or credits that you have to take because you're outside of the country. So you are going to be fine. You can comfortably take 2 or 3 courses. Now, there was a question in the Q&A that said, what about the 30 credit rule? You need to keep in touch with your academic advisor, because that depends on your program. And you can make it work, and you can look at the best way to make that work with your academic advisor and with your program. So this is about the enrollment. Yes.
Thank you, Alejandra. And those are great responses and good information. I believe now the next slide is on the graduate. And I also know that we have some information, actually more information for those students who wish to stay abroad as well. So let's go ahead, and I want to turn it over to Lydia Kaz from our University Graduate School, that'll talk a little bit about some of the graduate requirements as well.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Since a lot of our graduate students are international, before talking about the questions and the answers, I would like to reiterate what the president said. And the graduate school is absolutely committed to helping you and supporting you, making sure that you are in compliance with these regulations. And please do not hesitate to contact us if you need help or support in any other way. So as far as enrollment, the graduate students need to basically follow the same rules that Alejandra Parra talked about for the undergraduate students. You need to be enrolled full-time, but full-time for graduate students is 9 credits in fall and spring. And I would ask that you talk to your graduate program director to make sure that you are enrolled in the right number of credits, and that at least one of those courses that you're taking is either in person or hybrid. Now, one of the advantages that graduate students have is that a lot of the courses that you would normally take, such as supervised research, master's thesis, dissertations, credits, are considered in person. So as long as you're taking some of those classes or one of those classes, you should be in compliance with the regulations. So for those students, for research-bound students, those students who have advanced to candidacy, if you're taking 3 dissertation credits, if you're a PhD student, you are going to be in compliance. If you are a master's student, thesis master's student, you would be also in compliance. Okay, Pablo.
Thank you, Lydia.
Next slide.
Yeah, Pablo, you mentioned that there was something else that you wanted to, oh, okay, yes.
Right, so now I'd like to hand it over to Sarah Knoppen from International Admissions that will walk us through these slides, the questions and answers. Sarah?
Good afternoon. So we've tried to break this down into three types of incoming students, or for students that are still abroad primarily. If you are a new international student and you're remaining in your home country, what are your enrollment requirements if you're going fully online or remote? And the good news is there are no specific requirements for immigration status. We would, of course, always ask you to consult your academic advisor and make sure that your academic program or scholarship requirements do not have a minimum enrollment requirement, but otherwise for immigration, there are no specific requirements if you are remaining in your home country. Now, if you're a new international student and you're intending to arrive in Miami for coursework, we would strongly encourage you to arrive by the date on your I-20, so that's August 24th of 2020, and check in with ISSS. And then, of course, as you've heard, to maintain your status, you will have to enroll in the minimum of 12 credit hours. One of those courses towards your degree should, in fact, be in person or hybrid. We're also recommending for travelers from abroad that they follow the guidance of self-quarantining for 14 days. And as far as new international students, those that have appointments that are in September for fall term, can you still come to Miami? Well, if you are enrolled in a hybrid or in-person course that begins in fall B, please contact us in International Admissions so we can update your I-20 for the fall B start. Now, if you do not have a fall B in-person or hybrid course, we really do not advise you to arrive late. We cannot guarantee that you will receive your visa, nor can we guarantee that you will be allowed entry at the port. So at that point, we would encourage you to update. Now, if you are in a special program, a cohort program, or a partner program, we do not yet have concrete answers for you. So we would really encourage you to hold off a little bit and consult your academic program before you make any major considerations. Next slide, please. And finally, how are we going to accommodate new international students if you're unable to receive your visas to enter for the fall? And we really, you know, as you've heard, we really are truly wanting to welcome you here. And we are taking two approaches to this. You will need to communicate with your academic program or your academic advisor to determine the best course of action. So you may take fall courses online and then enter the US in the spring. Of course, you'll update your I-20 by contacting us, or you may defer the start of your course to either next spring, this upcoming spring, or the following academic term, so fall. But really, this is a consultation between you and your academic advisor or your academic program. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And a lot of questions came in pertaining to housing, and I want to thank Andrew Naylor for being on this call and on this panel as well. So let's jump to the next slide, and I know that Andrew has a lot of answers for those questions regarding how students will be impacted by housing this coming fall. So Andrew?
Hello, everyone. So I know some students have asked if we're going to be open for the fall, and yes, FIU Housing and Residential Life at MNC and Bayview Housing are going to be open, and we're excited to be open. We're going to be promoting healthy living and physical distancing, providing enhanced cleaning, virtual programs, and creating an environment where we can have the best experience possible for students who do plan to live on. Another question that has come up is people asking if housing is still available for fall 20, and we do have many openings right now. And so if somebody is interested in registering for housing now, or even for fall B, we would be happy to help you out, and you just need to send an email to housing@fiu.edu to inquire for more details. Of course, some students have asked, what if they're unable to return to the US for classes for fall, and if they can cancel housing? And the answer is yes. So FIU MNC Housing is going to allow you to cancel your agreement with no penalty. You just need to let us know by emailing housing@fiu.edu. And then students living at Bayview will be able to cancel at a significantly reduced cost. All this is due to the pandemic, and with our understanding that this is not something that you created, and so we want to be as helpful as possible. The other question that we've been getting a lot is, if you cancel for fall, can you live on campus for the spring semester? And the answer is yes, but you must reapply for housing. That application is going to go live October 1st, and priority is going to be given to international students and students living out of area.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Let me just make a couple of announcements before we start this other slide. First of all, just so that everyone knows, we recognize that we started a few minutes late. We will be extending the time of this session beyond 1 p.m. as it was originally planned, because we want to have enough time to answer questions as they're coming in now to our Q&A section. Speaking of the Q&A section, we noticed that some students are asking and repeating the questions, right? I know that we have some students that are urgently trying to get their answers, their questions answered, and we will try to get to all of the answers. Remember, there's 3 ways that we're trying to ensure that you get the information that you need. First of all, through this presentation, and we hope that we've captured the majority of those questions that have been asked over the last week or so. Secondly, we have the team behind the scenes that will be answering those questions through the Q&A, so please keep vigilant of those answers that are coming in. And then thirdly, we will have, for any of those questions that we feel that we did not have time to answer, we will be capturing those questions, and we will be providing those answers following today's session. So I wanted to make sure we get all of that in. Sarah Noppen mentioned the 14-day quarantine, and I wanted to clarify this because we don't want the students, our international students, that this just pertains to the international students. This is a recommendation that comes to us from the Board of Governors for any students that will be returning to the university in the fall, is to adhere to the 14-day isolation period. And as everyone can understand and imagine, that is primarily to ensure the health and safety and well-being of all of our visitors and students, faculty, and staff that will be joining us in the fall. So I wanted to provide that clarification. It is not just for the international students, but it is that recommendation that is coming to us from the Board of Governors for all of our students. And speaking of health, you'll see here that we have now a slide with health insurance. And we saw in our Q&A several questions surrounding what students should be doing about their health insurance, what decisions they should be making about health insurance. So with that, I'm going to ask Lydia Caz and Alejandro Parra to speak to what students need to know at this time.
Thank you, Pablo. From the last also webinar that we had, there were a lot of questions and comments that graduate students who need to be enrolled in health insurance have not been able to get the FIU health insurance. I just want to ensure everybody that by the first week of August, you are going to be able to purchase the FIU offered health insurance. And once you do that, your hold will be removed and you're going to be able to register in classes. Now for graduate student assistants that have their health insurance provided with their assistantships or research assistantships, you're going to have to wait until your contracts are put in place, and that's going to happen by August 8th. And once your contract is in place, then your health insurance is going to kick in, the hold will be removed, and you're going to be able to register for classes. Alejandro.
I'm seeing the questions, and this is exactly what we're answering here. So if you are remaining at home and taking classes online or remotely during the fall, do I need health insurance? In reality, if you have done your due diligence, that is communicate with the ISSS office so that we can adjust your I-20 and remove the F1 status from your record, that means that the health insurance is not going to kick in and you're not going to be charged health insurance. You don't need to buy health insurance if you are outside of the country, but you need to have done your paperwork to make sure that we can update your records. Now, if you're a new student, you will have to contact the Office of International Admissions, and they will be the ones who will be updating your record. So in any case, we are going to protect you. We don't want you to be paying for health insurance if you don't need it, but you need to go through the motions and do the appropriate paperwork.
Thank you, Lydia and Alejandra. Let's go to the next slide. And I just want to spend a moment here. This is not the end of the session or the meeting, students, but this is a very important slide and will be the last slide that we will use. I do want to mention that we've received over 240 questions, and we've already answered close to 115 of them. So our teams behind the scene are working very hard to make sure that you're getting the information that you need. But we are certain, and we understand, we recognize this, and the president mentioned it up front. We do not want this to be a one-time conversation where you feel we're not going to be accessible or we won't have answers for you. What you see on the screen here is very important information for you to take with you from this session. So before I turn it over to Alejandra and to Charlie, I'm going to ask students if you could see this page online, take a screenshot of it, because this is going to be very important for you going forward. Should you forget who you should be reaching out to or where you should go, these are very important links and contact points for you at the university, because we want to make sure you're getting all of the information in a timely manner. So Alejandra, walk us through some of the services that you have, and then I'm going to ask Charlie Andrews as well, that has a very unique and new role at the university as well to help our students.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ortiz. So the first item is, of course, our coronavirus page. That is a page that is being updated with information related to the pandemic, to the coronavirus situation and the repopulation of the university. So that is a page that you need to be checking regularly. And then our services, we were very, very fortunate to be able to turn all our services when the pandemic started and March 16th came. We had to be creative. We had to find ways of remaining in touch with all of you. So we created what we call our virtual office. Very easy to access, go.fiu.edu virtual office, always manned by at least two of our international student advisors, and they are there to answer your questions. Please don't hesitate to visit our virtual office. You also can, if you directly want to make an appointment to speak with one of our advisors, you also can make a virtual appointment to meet with an advisor virtually. And the link is very easy, go.fiu.edu/appointment. Those two items really have helped us remain in touch with you, to be in communication, in constant communication, answering your questions and appeasing your concerns and your anxieties. And we are hoping that we can continue to do so, continue asking questions, but also please continue to check our emails, our update emails. We're already in our update email number 15. So you need to continue checking your emails. We're always updating the information, and our first page of our website is constantly being updated. So please remain in touch, be patient. We're receiving a very heavy volume of questions, but we get to all of you. And last but not least, of course, you can reach us via email, ISSS@fiu.edu. And I'm gonna turn it over to Charlie.
Thank you so much, Alejandra. As Dr. Potter mentioned, there's obviously several resources for you through the ISSS office. And so, definitely taking advantage of those and taking advantage of your academic advisors. But if you were on our town hall that was earlier this week, some of you may have joined that. We announced that we had launched a site called askcharlie.fiu.edu. So I'm the Charlie behind that. And I'm here to help try to direct any of your questions or concerns. Again, I think specifically if they're about your immigration status and visa status, ISSS is going to be a great resource. But if you have other general questions or things that I can help connect you with at the institution, you need to connect with someone in your academic department or something along the lines of your fall schedule, please feel free to submit something on Ask Charlie, and I'll do my best to connect you as quickly as I can.
So thank you both, Alejandra and Charlie. Students, I would say that this is another screenshot you should take. If you have a screenshot of Charlie Andrews on your computer right now, take a screenshot of him, as well, as he is really going to work very, very closely with you and route any of your concerns or any of your issues to the appropriate office immediately. But I would also encourage you as international students, your number one liaison here at the university is the ISSS office. If you have questions about your visa, immigration, the anything relating to being what takes part as being an international student, please reach out to the ISSS office, and you can always reach out to askcharlie.fiu.edu. I just want to remind our students on the screen, you can see that we are conducting a poll, and it's very important for us to know where you are to better serve you as well. So if you are on this call and you are participating or viewing and you have access to this poll, we ask you please to answer. We'd like to know how many of you are still living within the United States, or which one of you have gone back to your home countries, because that's certainly is valuable information to us, again, so that we can better respond and service your needs as they come up. So we're going to open it up now to a question and answer session. We captured a lot of questions online, as I mentioned. So I want to make sure that we are answering as many of those as we can that we did not cover during the presentation. So I'm going to put the provost, our provost, Dr. Ken Furton, on the spot here with the first question. And it's a question, Mr. Provost, that has been repeated quite a bit from our students. Let's say our university opens up in the fall, August 24th, our international students begin their courses. They've met the requirements. They have in-person courses, either through hybrid or in-person. And mid-semester, we start seeing some challenges in terms of the virus again. What is the university's position at this point? What happens if we're forced to a remote environment again? How will that affect our international students? Mr. Provost?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Ortiz. So we actually have a very well thought out, a flexible plan that's been approved by our Board of Governors, and it allows for the flexibility to move to remote and then back to in-person classes as the conditions would warrant. So we have a health affairs committee that's guiding a repopulation task force. So right now we expect on August 24th to be back to face-to-face and hybrid in-person classes starting August 24th. But there's also, it's flexible enough that depending on the conditions, it could be a delayed start, or we may go to remote during part of the fall term, but it would still be face-to-face or in-person courses during the fall semester. It just may not be in the same, it may be a truncated term like we had in the spring term, but we will have a component at least that will be in-person or face-to-face during the fall term.
Thank you, Mr. Provost. I have a question here that I'd like to ask both Charlie and Alejandra, and possibly Leanne Wells as well. So we have a student that says that they are graduating in December. They have 9 credits left. And currently, as it stands, they cannot find any on in-person or hybrid courses that fit their requirements. They've contacted the university, but what can they do at this point? And who can help them with this challenge?
I can go ahead and take that one. So we do know all of the students that are international students that do not currently have an in-person or hybrid class, and we are contacting those departments and colleges to make sure that we have courses available to you so that we can offer you the courses you need to graduate. So we will be doing that, and you can contact us if you feel like it's not working out for you, but you know, your advisors will know that we are working with them to create those classes. So please know that we know who you are, and we're working to get the classes you need.
So Leanne, thank you for that response. But as a student, let me just to be clear, Is that something they should reroute through Charlie Andrews, Ask Charlie, or who specifically should they be contacting for that kind of information? Because I want to make sure that the students walk away knowing where they need to go.
So for right now, give us a little bit of time, because this is a new thing for everybody here, right? So we need to have the opportunity to talk to the departments to see which classes we can, change to face-to-face. If we, and then they will be contacting you by email to say, sign up for this class, right? But if you don't hear from us in a couple of weeks, then contacting Charlie would be your next set of steps. So Charlie?
Yeah, Pablo, I was just going to reiterate that I've already had a few students reach out on Ask Charlie, and that's basically what I've been telling them, is that we're aware the departments are all working on trying to come up with solutions. So it's going to, may take a little bit of time, but they're all working on it currently. And that, they should expect to hear something, as soon as we have more information. But that's kind of what I've been telling folks, is for right now, like, give us some time, and to reiterate what Leanne said about that they're going to get specific lists of specific students who are in this situation, so they know exactly who they need to work with and support. So we just need a little bit of time, but obviously at some point I'm happy to help, especially if it's taking longer than we think it should.
So what I'm hearing from both of you, and I think it's important for the students to hear this as well, is that we don't want students making rash decisions at this point because they feel time is running out, right? Our teams are currently assessing every international student's current enrollment. We're looking to see what they need, what is missing, and we're communicating that directly to the academic units. So students, if you are in a position where you are not enrolled in a course that you will need for the fall term based on the new guidelines, you will be contacted. You will be contacted by someone, so do not jump to any decisions in the next couple of days. We will be working with you directly to ensure that you get what you need. We want you to please understand that, because we certainly understand that there's quite a bit of anxiety and you're going to want to make a decision, but it's important that the courses that you are enrolled for, as Dr. Parra mentioned early in the presentation, are contributing to the path of your major. So we do not want you just to be registering for any course that you see. So we'll work with you on that. Mr. Provost, I have several questions here regarding the social distancing in space and how that affects the academic classroom environment now that international students are obviously going to be registering for an in-person or a hybrid course. How is the university managing protecting our students in the social distance setting, and how does that affect our international students?
Yes, so I just actually changed my virtual background to what a typical active learning classroom would look like. And so we've adjusted all of the classrooms, or in the finalizing the classroom, so that there'll be 6-foot distancing between the seats that the students will be in, and everyone will be required to be wearing facial covering, which we'll be providing to the students. And so that maximizes the protection of the spread in a classroom setting, so that we also have plexiglass shields around areas where there would be activity, and we have a very elaborate testing, tracing, and disinfecting protocol in place, including we have an app which is called Panthers Protecting Panthers app. So every student, undergrad, grad, myself, administrators, faculty will all be required to do this screening app before they come onto the campus in order to minimize the risk of the spread of the virus while you're in the classroom setting.
Thank you, Mr. Provost. And speaking of the classrooms, we have a couple of questions here that are interesting the way it was framed. So we have students asking if the insurance hold is lifted on August 8th, as was, I think, expressed earlier, students are concerned that the classes, in particular the in-person classes, will be filled by that time. Is there anything that's going to be done to support the international students in those instances where the course may have been filled because they had the hold on the insurance? I'll open that up to the panel. Maybe Lydia, you can answer, or someone.
I guess we'll do. I mean, we'll not leave a international student not being able to enroll in a class. We'll do. I mean, August 8th is only for those students who are graduate assistants, and the only reasons we do not know. I mean, we have to wait until we know who is on a graduate assistantship and who is, you know, to have the contract set up so that they can then receive the health insurance. But we will make sure that there is proper availability of in-person or hybrid classes for those students. And they can always enroll in research credits or supervised research because those are in person.
Thank you, Lydia. So I have, Alejandro, I have two questions for you, right? Two separate questions. The first one is, students are asking how they will receive their new I-20s. So maybe you can address that. And the second question is, maybe talk a little bit about the 5-month rule. You're muted.
So how are we going to be sending those I-20s? During the pandemic, USCIS really was very flexible, and they actually agreed that we would be able to send I-20s via email. So that's what we're going to be doing for students who are here in the United States, or for students who are outside of the United States. We are going to be emailing those I-20s through our immigration portal. So that's one. The other answer is the 5-month rule. Okay, so all international students know that if they're going to be absent, or if they're going to be out of the United States for more than 5 months, they need to complete a leave of absence form. And that leave of absence gives them permission to be outside of the country more than 5 months. Now, what happens is that students had to leave because of the pandemic, and if they're coming back at the beginning of the fall, then they're okay because they will not have exceeded the 5-month rule. However, if they are delayed in their visa processing, or if they're having problems in their home country to come back to the United States, and they come back in September or at the beginning of October, and they over exceed that 5-month rule, then we have to make more complex adjustments to their I-20s. And I think that in that case, the students need to be in touch with our office and ask us, and then we'll analyze the situation and we'll give them the best advice possible. Okay.
Thank you.
This is what we call the 5-month rule.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. I just wanted to go back to the previous question as well. I know Lydia answered it in regards to the graduate students, but even for the undergraduate students, we want to reiterate, and that's why we had you take a screenshot of the contact avenues that you have as a student. Ask Charlie, very critical. If you know that you are trying to register for a course and it's showing up as filled, and it's a course that you need, and it's because that it was after your insurance hold was released, please, we urge you to ask Charlie, as Charlie and his team are ready and prepared to get you that response and get you the support very quickly. So make sure that you do that. I want to introduce another topic here that has come up in a number of questions regarding scholarships and aid for our international students. And I know we have members of our financial aid and scholarships team here on this call. So one question came in: will merit scholarships be applicable for remote students in their home country? Maybe we can spend a little bit of time in terms of what scholarships are available and how that will work for the international students.
This is Francisco. I can attempt to do some of that. So long as the student is still a fully admitted degree-seeking student at FIU, even if they're remote, and the courses they take are applicable to their degree, we're going to count them, and they're going to be able to get their scholarships. They just have to be mindful of the requirements, usually full-time enrollment, and the renewal requirements about maintaining the 3.0 and completing 30 credits in an academic year. But other than that, that'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you, Francisco. We do have a question, and I'm gonna ask our Iris, our representative from the General Counsel's office, to maybe just weigh in on this, because we know that there is still some uncertainty around this issue, and our students are asking whether the requirement is one in-person class or one credit. So for example, is it 1 or 3 credits? And we know we've had a lot of deliberation on that. So Iris, maybe you could just sort of state where we are so far and trying to clarify that.
Good afternoon. What we do know is that it should be 1 class, which should equate to 3 credit hours. That's what we know right now. We're hoping we'll have more information once the announcement is formal.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to continue scanning the Q&A to see if we have any more questions that have not been answered. I do want to mention that we have currently over 600 that are participating or viewing this this session via Zoom. We have over 160 that are participating over Facebook or through Facebook. So we want to welcome everybody, as I mentioned before. We have a question from a student that is a transfer from Miami-Dade College, from MDC. Do I need a new school visa? Do I need to do anything with my visa? Alejandro?
If the student is here in the United States, then he won't need to change that visa on his passport. When that visa expires, then he would have to leave and go to his country. If he leaves the United States, go to his native country and get a visa with the Florida International University on it. But for the time being, no.
Okay, wonderful. So just an update, and I know that, again, we've received a number of questions, and I'm happy to see that I believe we've answered the majority of them so far. We have been able to answer close to 200 questions that have come in through our Q&A chat screen. And I also want to remind students that should your question, if your question was not answered today, this is not the final session or the only session that we're going to have regarding the new international guidelines. We will continue to have informational sessions and keep you updated. So we want to make sure that that you are aware that we will continue with this effort. I do want to just briefly mention, because this had come up in a lot of the question, is in terms of the overall efforts that the university is doing, asking in terms of even where our congressional leaders and our delegates stand on this issue. We want you to understand that all of us, in particular our Florida congressional delegates understand the value of the international students. And in particular, they understand our role as a university in hosting so many of the international students. And they are certainly supporting us and are with us in all of these efforts. We've been in constant contact with our delegation on many immigration issues, many of them dating back months. Things such as the delay of the embassy openings that have been impacted by the virus, as well as the OPT decision that we know was not included in this new release of information. So what we do know at this point is our government relations team, as well as our leadership, has been working with the congressional members, and we know that the members have signed a letter opposing the changes and seeking answers on how the Department of Homeland Security plans to treat some of the students, our international students, in these various scenarios. So I think, students, what you probably have recognized through this session is that there are a number of different scenarios that affect you in different ways, and we're working very, very diligently to try to get the answers for you so that you know what to do next, and in particular, you know what your status is going to be going in the fall. But I do not want this session to end without recognizing the efforts of our congressional delegates and how they're supporting all of us in this effort. So I believe we've gone through most of these questions and been able to answer most of them. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this informational session. Students, as I said at the beginning, there'll be more than one. We will be posting this presentation and this informational session live after the session so that you can go back and look at it as well. Remember, if you didn't take a screenshot of it, text a friend or message a friend. Ask Charlie and ISSS. Those two offices are very important for you to get your answers, and we want to make sure that you're getting that as quickly as possible. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our president, Dr. Rosenberg, for any final thoughts and comments before we end our session. Dr. Rosenberg.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you all for a very information-filled and I hope helpful session with our students. And I want to underline that last couple points that Dr. Ortiz made. Our congressional delegation understands how important our international students are to our university, our community, and our state. And we know that they are very concerned about these changes. And we are communicating directly with them. That's number one. Number two, we're going to fight for you. We wanted you here. We want you to graduate from our FIU, and we're going to find a way to make it happen. We're going to find a way to make sure that you have the appropriate courses, and we're going to do this fully in compliance with all the rules and regulations. Every one of our faculty and our staff are committed to that. And if you have issues, the reason Charlie is here on this program, and the reason we've set up an Ask Charlie approach, is that he is your advocate. He will help you. He will cut through the difficulties, the bureaucracy, the confusion that you may be feeling now. We want to put you at ease by helping you to understand that we're your advocates. We're here for you. Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend. We will make sure this information is out, and we'll see you again soon on another one of these programs. Thank you very much, Dr. Ortiz, your entire team.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.